give you guys my first impression of the patch. This is gonna be the first time I'll ever do this for my YouTube channel. So let's get right into it. I'll be reading everything in the notes and later on give my reactions to each one. And once again, I've never seen these before. I've read some of the changes in the past in their earlier iterations, especially on Twitter, but I've never actually found myself um, looking at the final version of the notes. So, zip, zap, and zoom with Zeri, the Spark of Zon in patch 12.2. This patch, we're introducing an electrifying new personality to the Rift, plus a ton of champion balance changes. There's a champion refresh for Janna in the forecast, as well as more item, dragon, and rune adjustments too. The Lunar Revel event is also in full swing this week. Celebrate the Year to Tiger with us with special events, including the return of all random Earth, exciting missions, and beautiful new porcelain, firecracker, and prestige skins. Happy Lunar New Year! And there's also some TFT stuff there, so you can see the patch highlights down here. Okay, seems like there's a bunch of nerfs across the board, and a healthy number of buffs as well. And I think this will be the Chemtech Dragon change for stuff like Rengar, but we'll see. Again, I'm not sure. So first on the list is Zeri, the Spark of Zon. Zip, zap, and zoom across Summer's Rift with Zeri on January 20. As of the day I'm recording this, it is already January 20. So if you're in the Philippines server, we will be having uh the patch soon. I'm not entirely sure when, but okay. I've seen Zeri's abilities before, and right off the bat, it's not too exciting. I feel like her kit's very generic and doesn't really offer a whole lot of utility. Um, could be scary in terms of damage though. I could see that, and obviously the her ability that goes over terrain can be uh useful in some situations, but I don't know. I'm not too excited about Zeri, but we'll see. We'll definitely have to figure out once she's out, and pro players have tested her here and there. Once more research has been done into how she's supposed to be played. So Janna, base stats and all abilities adjusted. Janna just hasn't felt very rewarding to play over the past few seasons, especially when compared to other enchanter options in bot lane. We wanted to approach this mid-scope update to her while staying true to her classic playstyle and identity. In particular, we believe Janna's ally shielding and peel are what makes her appealing to most enchanter players. We've shifted power from her W and poke damage into her E's and Q's. We've also made a few nice little quality of life changes here and there in hopes of blowing you away. Okay, so base stats, we got 15 extra movement speed. We got 6 to 680 at level 1. And right about, is that 32? But 32 AD at level 18. And then the AD growth stat doubled as well. Basic attack range reduced to 500. 50, 50 reduction in basic attack rate is pretty huge. So right off the bat, these sort of base stats sort of tell you that uh well, yes, Janna can hurt a lot more with autos, especially early on in the lane. To compensate, you're less oppressive with range. And I think range is more oppressive than damage in a lot of matchups in bot lane anyway. The movement speed buff is obviously very nice, and you will feel that to some degree, but it's not as big because you're not particularly roaming as much with Janna, and even in the situations you do, the 50 movement speed won't matter all that much. Passive Tailwind. Tailwind, Janna gains 8% bonus movement speed only while moving towards allied champion. Um, okay. Bonus movement speed for allied champions moving towards Janna on chain. Interesting. Um, That's gonna help her support a little bit better in terms of like fights, right? Where she can get in there faster, yes. And then Janna's basic attacks in W definitely deal bonus magic damage based on her bonus movements. I'm fine with this. She's losing a bit of damage, but in return gets more utility out of Tailwind, which I'd argue is much more important anyway. Um, Howling Gale. So the cost goes from 60 to 140 to 60 to 100, which is huge. The mana cost is pretty significant on Q, so getting that a little bit lower will really help Janna in providing a lot more utility inside of fights without expending so much more mana. Minimum range increased by 100 and maximum range increased by 10. Not that big of a deal. Uh, Time to destination is shortened by 0.25 seconds. Again, the biggest change here is probably the Qmax is now 40 mana lower. I think that's going to be really helpful for Janna overall. The Zephyr. Um, I don't know why I read it that way. Range is 550 from edge to edge to 650, but it's centered. I don't know what that means. Uh, if it's edge to edge, meaning once you get into the hitbox, it should be longer, right? It should be longer, I think. Could be wrong here. Like from Janna's edge to the opponent's edge. That's what I'm thinking. Could be wrong. But this could be a buff in range, which is fine. Low duration increase. Cooldown. Oh, this is big. Cooldown is from 8 to 6 to 12 seconds at all ranks. Ooh. Oh no. Okay. They're really gutting the W poke version of Janna, which is fine. This way you have to really utilize W for the slow. Base damage from 55 to 175 to 70 to 190. Okay, so you do get a little bit more damage and bonus movement speed from 6 to 10 to 8, 12%. Alright. Overall I like this change. Movement speed is obviously very important on Janna. And damage buff is pretty irrelevant. You're mainly using it for the slow, so the extra slow duration, I'd argue, is really good. But the cooldown being up 12 seconds, that's gonna be a bit rough. You might consider this as like uh a last like ability to max from this point on. Because I'm pretty sure you max E into W right now. I could be wrong once again. I haven't really seen a lot of Janna players because Janna's quite a proficient Janna player or like someone who can play her very well. I think she's still good in situations where she's supposed to be good. But on base value, like if you're just playing Janna on its basic capabilities, then there's a lot of different champions that can fulfill the same role and just better and simpler in all regards. So I have the Storm. Uh, Whenever Janna's ability slow or knock up at least one enemy champion, she receives plus 20% heal and shield power for 5 seconds. Interesting. So it's no longer reducing your E. Your E is cooldown. Instead, your heal and shield power gets increased. So potentially what this means is that if you land your W or your Q and then you press E, you have a much bigger shield. Okay, so let's see the shield changes first before we react to that. So you have here 80 to 220 to 80 to 200, and also 5% of the AP ratio gutted, as well as the cooldown going from 16 to 12 to 15 to 9. Oh, wow. Um, all right. And shield decay starts after zero point 0.5 seconds later than usual. I see. What does this mean? it means relatively earlier on in the game, we're looking at the values of like 80, 150, and 220. Like, obviously, at level 1, it won't, I mean, it's the same. If you're like level 4, you'll lose a bit, but you do gain it a little bit back when you slow someone, when you tag someone with W and then you E. And then at max rank, it basically equates to the same thing. The AP obviously won't matter all that much. 5% AP is not a whole lot. They just made it more skillful, I guess. Like pressing E just by itself is no longer optimal, right? If you really just wanted like bigger shield power, now you want to tag them with at least Howling Gale or Zephyr, and then you press Eye of the Storm on someone to gain max shields. But overall, the idea that we no longer can reduce cooldown on E is now compensated by this, right? Where it goes down to 9 seconds. I think it's really good. And then uh Monsoon healing tick rate's 0.25 seconds, meaning you heal faster inside of a Monsoon. And I think overall, the Janna is getting a lot of love as an enchanter and is probably going to be able to pick less in a poke situation based on the changes that we've read so far. That's my guess. So in solo queue, she might get picked up more often. In fact, I think with this volume of changes, it's definitely appetizing to some of the Janna mains. But I think there are still better options. So, okay, these are I like the changes. From a design perspective, this seems to be going at the right direction of where Janna's intended design to be, and I'm not too against it. Okay, moving forward, we have Lulu. W cooldown increase. Lulu's been queen of the bot lane for quite some time now, especially at the highest levels of play, reducing access to her most versatile spell just a pinch. The cooldown on WMZ is going down from 16 to 12, or going up from 16 to 12 to 17 to 13. This won't change anything. Lulu is still going to be picked for pretty much the same reasons. They're just increasing the windows in which Whimsy is unavailable, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a completely random change and probably won't do. I don't agree that Lulu's that oppressive. I think Lulu is an enchanter that can exist in maybe pro play, but like what's quoted here. But other than that, not not that great in terms of being the queen of the bot lane, as they code it. So that's just my opinion. But okay, some people will love this, especially those who hate playing against Lulu. But I hate to break it to you, it won't change anything. It's not nearly as sizable as these Janna updates so far. So Nocturne, health growth increased and Q damage ratio increased. Nocturne has been a nightmare to play as in all skill brackets. Sorry, my reading is terrible this morning. Regardless of his builds or runes. We're buffing him with some scaling power so he can become more useful as the game progresses rather than just relying on his ultimate as his only way to say lights out. Health growth 85 to 95. They bugged out the formatting because CSS is hard. And Duskbringer's bonus 80 ratio is up by 10%. Good changes. I think Nocturne is already in a good spot in solo queue. Definitely gonna be picked up more. Uh, I don't get the idea behind this uh reasoning. I'd say I think maybe just the people who play Nocturne right now aren't very good at him, but he's definitely very strong in solo queue because he's very abusive, right? In solo queue, there's a lot of chaos and a lot of like lack of coordination, and that in itself with paranoia and how simple his kit can be effective is one of the reasons why Nocturne is very strong. Even in amateur levels of play, Nocturne can get away with a lot of stuff where normally you won't see that same volume of impact in pro play. So Nocturne already good, now even better. I love it. Sure, why not? Qiyana. Base health regen decreased and brush Q zone duration decreased. Qiyana is dominating late play quite a bit right now, reducing how much time she gets to spend being invisible in a fight, which should help lower some frustration when playing against the Empress of the Element. So she's getting her base health regen down and grass trail zone duration down by 0.5 seconds. I don't know what this means on a grand scheme of things. Does that mean you can't chain Invis anymore? I doubt it. I think it's still possible. But the base health regeneration, it sucks, especially in lane. It's gonna be a lot harder to sustain. I think this isn't a necessary change. I don't think Qiyana's that dominant right now, to be honest with you. And even then, I don't think she even if she is strong in certain situations, probably only in solo queue, and I don't think she warrants this nerf in the base health department or the health regen department. So I'm not a big fan of this change. Will it change a whole lot? Nah, not really. Yana's already in a tough spot to exist in the metagame, so we'll see if I don't know. We'll see what they plan to do with Qiyana. I think down the line they might have to buffer again once they realize these changes are a bit too harsh. But that's just me. So Rengar, our passive now enables leaping from camouflage. As a primary jungler, this battle KD that's not true. But I'll read on to this. This battle KD has been suffering a lot on the Chemtech Rift. While he's not the only champion affected, Rengar has certainly gotten the worst of it as much of his power budget is dedicated to his passive's interaction with Brush. Removing 12 spots of it is incredibly disruptive. I didn't even realize it's 12. Not just to his core farming pattern, but it's his entire gameplay really. So we're giving him a new way to pounce and prowl. No catnip needed. Note that his passive is on his R and only takes effect once he ranks up his ultimate. Which is probably the only time it matters anyway. Realistically. So anyways, innate Rengar can leap to enemies with his next basic attack when he is in camouflage. Um yeah, I mean again, it doesn't really matter that it only takes effect once he ranks up his ultimate because you can never really get uh the Chemtech's terrain, the Chemtech Rift without going through a single point of your ult unless you're beefing your game. But I guess he's supposed to be like he's intended to be a jungler, but right now because Chemtech Rift is such a huge risk, in general players have been avoiding to play him in the jungle and has been played in the top lane instead. So hopefully this will bring back some interest with Rengar jungle, and I like that. I like this change. It appears to uh you know players' concerns. People have been voicing out how terrible the changes are to Rengar, at least specifically for the Chemtech Rift. So this will be a pretty good change and a pretty fair one at the very least. I like this. Samira, our base damage increased. Didn't they just nerf Samira like prior to this match? Funny. Or no, I think they buffed her. They buffed her, but it didn't matter, right? So they're trying to buff her again. It's crazy. Now that her mid game transition is less reliable with the shield bow nerfs, we're giving Samira a bit more baseline potential in her R so she can snowball and style. Physical damage shot goes from extra 5 base damage. Yeah, gets an extra 5 base damage. And the total damage per target is increased by 50 per rank. Would I say it's that big? No. No. Samira will still have the same problems that she has right now. wherein she's extremely reliant on opponents making mistakes and not being able to disengage effectively or crowd control as a response to her Inferno trigger, uh, and snowball games through that way. I think while this is a good change and it's a change in the right direction, I think these are not enough of a change to warrant Samira's like resurgence back in the metagame. I think Samira's really only gonna be played by people who enjoy playing Samira, but as a much more viable meta pick, I don't think she's there yet. So Senna, Q now slows enemies. Great. Senna is quite weak this season, especially when she builds for DPS. The old Glacial Augment was a crucial part of that playstyle, and since it no longer procs off Senna's basic attacks, we're adding some utility back into her kit. So Q now Piercing Darkness now slows all enemies struck by 20% with a plus 6% per 100 AP ratio and a plus 10% per 100 bonus AD for 2 seconds. So clearly this is a targeted change for this thing helps Senna overall. Like they mentioned in the quote that this helps like DPS Senna, but this also helps like the supportive Senna, right? So this is good. Senna's kit is already really massive, so getting this slow on Q on its base value and you don't have to run an extra keystone on it is pretty insane, at the very least. Um, it's not game changing enough that Senna's automatically gonna get picked, but people would now like to play Senna more after this, definitely. And again, I really like this change. It's really good for helping out Senna on both AD and support. 10. Q damage decreased. With the changes of to teleport in 12.1, Shen has once again become king when it comes to map influence from top lane. To bring things back to equilibrium, we're lowering his damage to duelist instead of bringing down his cross map power so that his unique global presence remains his most powerful tool. The increased bonus damage is now what exactly? They reduce the scaling from the target's max health. Reduce the percent max HP scaling. That's very negligible and probably completely unnecessary. Again, while Shen, I agree, Shen is definitely strong. Mainly in solo queue, I don't think Shen is that great in pro play. But this change does nothing, I feel. Yes, against a lot of the tank matchups, it probably has some impact. But you're still gonna see Shen still okay. He's still gonna be really good because once again, uh, like what they quoted, the global presence on his kit and just his reliability as sort of this defensive tank is still going to be prevalent in regardless of this change. So yeah, I'm not sure if I like this change. It doesn't do anything. Then still gonna be good. That's just my take on it. Tahm Kench. The Q slow increased, E adjusted damage stored as gray health decreased unless near multiple enemies. Our ally shield increased, now grants movement speed upon devouring ally. Okay. Alright. We did a mini rework of Tahm Kench back in 11.13 because his old kit held huge advantages in highly coordinated team play. Our goal back then was to lower his priority in pro pick and ban while putting him in a place where he could have a fun playstyle as well as reasonable win rates in both of his roles. Historically, his top lane win rate has been higher than that of his support. The rework is looking pretty good so far in terms of pro play as he doesn't have nearly as much priority there as he used to. When it comes to his win rates, the rework didn't dramatically affect the difference between his support versus top capabilities, but it did highlight the gap. This left support Tahm Kench players feeling like the catfish was no longer viable in their role. Now that we've had some time to observe all these effects together, we're willing to take a riskier swing to buff support Kench while nerfing his top lane capabilities to keep him in check up there. Alright, so enemy slow 40 to 50% on Tongue Lash, very good change. I feel like the Q, while it is good, it's not as reliable as a DC than other champions of the same vein, right? Like the same archetype that Tahm Kench is. And this way, you have a much more reliable of getting on to people, right? Whereas you don't have this by default, like you don't have this point and click stun or just some reliable way to lock them down, right? At least getting a stronger slow is going to help you a lot. So thick skin, amount of damage stored in gray health is whoa, from 45 to 65 to 15 to 55%, increased to 45, 65, just basically the pre-nerf version. If there are two or more visible enemy champions nearby, dead or alive, this shifts Tahm Kench um, as a powerhouse from top to support. I feel like this is huge for a top lane nerf. Um, because you don't really put points in E like, at all until later on. So this 15%, you're gonna feel this change for until level 13, 14. Right? That's insane. You have the whole laning phase where you lost 30% of your gray health. That's insane. That's insane. The reduction to his durability in top lane is drastically reduced. Anyway, the amount of healing restored from gray health is now from 30 to 100%, 45 to 100%. Okay. Isn't as big as the damage stored into gray health change. I don't know what to feel about this. In general, uh, I think Tahm Kench, while he did deserve some facet of nerf, if they really wanted to sort of pivot him into a more supportive role, I think they did this a bit too harsh, right? I really feel like just cutting it down, maybe 35%, 35 to 35 to 55 is a much more fair change. I mean, I don't obviously maybe not 35 to 55 because there wouldn't be any linear scaling. Um, so rough. It's so rough. Like seeing this. Because the thing is, when you're looking at this change, you're not looking at the end result. You're looking at the level one. Right? Like realistically, you're looking at the level one. And it's hard to say what would be the right change without, you know, glossing over a few things. I mean, in all honesty, they could even try something like from 35, it goes like 40, 45, 50, 55. Yeah, it's possible. I think it's completely possible. They just went like 35 to 55, exactly what I said. And, go from there. Because this one's extremely risky. I feel like they have to buff thick skin back. Um, and yes, they did add this thing where it's technically not nerfed if you're playing support. Ugh, but it's hard. It's hard to weigh this change. I don't know how to feel about this change. It could be good, it could be bad. We'll just see. So Devour ally shield upon Devour is now from 400 to 600, 100% AP to 500 to 900. Essentially a 100 to 300 damage bonus 100 damage bonus per rank, or a shield bonus, and a 50% extra AP ratio. Wow, that is huge. Gives you a lot of incentive to eat allies now instead of enemies. Move speed upon devouring allies slows Tahm Kench. This is no longer a thing. Now grants Tahm Kench 40% movement speed for 3 seconds. You could actually save people now. So before, and the reason why Tahm Kench top lane is so much more prevalent in support is it's so difficult to find situations to actually use Devour to save allies. Like actually save them from grave danger. You know what I mean? Like, yes, you could save them from like a skill shot or so, right? Or like a timed ability that you want to dodge, like a Karthus ult, but they still have to come out because you're slowed for days. Tahm Kench, like you're slowed for 30% and really hard to reposition after that. Now you get 40% movement speed. I think that's great. Overall, I think these buffs to Tahm Kench are really good. And I think this will help Tahm Kench a lot. I think Tahm Kench will find himself in a strong position after this match and will definitely, you know, be experimented by players around the world. See whether top lane or support is his gonna be his best role. I feel like it's still gonna be top lane, but who knows? I'm excited for support Tahm Kench. It can because given the current meta game, I think support Tahm Kench can actually come back. We'll just have to see how things come out from this patch. The next would be Talon W monster damage ratio decreased. We introduced Talon Jungle in 11.8 in hopes of bringing new players and playstyles into the jungle. He ended up becoming one of the stronger jungle assassins, especially in elite play where his mobility damage and clear speed are almost unmatched. He's still extremely fun as a flex pick, but we also understand that his current state has very few weaknesses, which can be frustrating to play against. In turn, we're heavily nerfing his clear speed to tune him down. The sleep viable there and will keep his high mobility edge, but you might need to think a little bit longer before jumping into the jungle with him. The damage against monsters to from 130% to 105%. Ooh, that is heavy nerf. That is a heavy nerf. For anyone who is looking to pick up Talon Jungle, I feel like Talon Jungle isn't as good unless you're very good with the champion. That's why I guess it's mentioned in this patch that he's only good in like top levels of play. But now I think we're not gonna see Talon Jungle anymore. I think with this much of a slower clear speed, I think Talon just barely exists in the metagame, and now he's gonna get rivaled pretty much with other assassin junglers. Maybe we could see the Qiyana thing pop back up, especially after the nerf to the base health regen, which hurts lane Qiyana more than jungle Qiyana. I think there's definitely gonna be a meta shift in terms of we're gonna see less of Talon in higher elos, and we're gonna see I don't know something else. And also, this opens up the room for like farming junglers to exist that Talon has normally uh been dominant against. So again, I'm not too big of a change for this one. I'd rather, but I don't know how else I would do it. I guess, especially because Talon's really unfun to play against in the jungle, right? So kind of a fair change, but I feel like there's a better angle to approach this change. I just wasn't sure how they want to go from it. Tristana, base health and health regen increased. Our Rocket Girl isn't doing so hot lately. Her abilities already get hit super hard, but they're pretty risky and can take a while to stack up. We're bumping up her early durability to give Tristana the time she needs to finish her combos and survive those explosive plays. The base health increased by 40, and base health regeneration increased by 0.25. These are overall great nerfs, or great buffs, sorry. to Tristana's early game. Would we see Tristana again in bot lane or in mid lane? No, not really. But it would help her out in, slowly getting back into the metagame. I think these are changes in the right direction. Unfortunately, I don't think we're gonna see Tristana for not for a bit. Probably later down the line, but not this patch. 1 second. Okay. I just needed to hydrate myself. I've been talking for about 30 minutes already. And if you have reached this part of the video and you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to do so. Hit the bell icon. I will be releasing new videos, hopefully within the rest of the year, about League of Legends videos, educational ones, and it would be really helpful if you left a like as well as write down your thoughts in the comments, like what's your favorite change in this patch or something of the sort. Get some discussions going that way. But moving on again, so that we don't extend this video for too long. Veigar, Q cooldown decreased, stacks from large monsters and minions increased. The tiny master of evil has been less threatening than usual as of late. We're upping the rate on his phenomenal evil stack so that he can stand above his competitors in the mid lane. Figuratively speaking, at least. Aha. Okay, Baleful Strike. Cooldown 75 seconds to 6 to 4 seconds. And stacks granted upon killing large monsters and minions from 2 to 3. So, again, very good changes. This will help Veigar mid a whole lot. It just the stacking speed makes him reach the relevant power spikes much earlier. I think Veigar bot is currently really good, and this makes Veigar even stronger in bot lane. So that's great, right? But I don't think this is enough change to make Veigar mid viable. I think Veigar in bot lane should start to pop up more now than usual from this patch. And if you're here watching this video and you need one and you need a new bot laner to play, I definitely suggest Veigar. Give it a try, give it a go. It's pretty good, especially this patch. Volibear base AD growth increased, E cooldown decreased. The once fearsome Volibear is bad for everyone, everywhere. We're giving him a reliable baseline stat buff and more access to his signature Stormy skill. So AD growth increased by 0.5, which is good. And Sky Splitter cooldown from 15 to 13, also good once again. Again, very healthy changes for Volibear on its own. Probably not going to see Volibear though, as he's currently outclassed by a lot of the juggernauts that exist in the metagame. And yeah, I just don't see him existing in top lane or jungle. At least not quite yet. Okay, Yasuo, Q damage ratio increased. Like Samira, the Wind Brothers were hit hard by the Immortal Shield Bow nerfs. We're compensating for this by returning some of that power into their more skill-dependent abilities. So from 20 to 120, base damage. Okay, so the buffing 5% extra AD ratio. I'm assuming the same thing happened for Yone. Of course, you have to do the same for Yone to make sure he doesn't fall behind the sibling rivalry. 5% extra AD ratio, again, is not that big. Um, yeah, it's all the same. Yone and Yasuo are still gonna be good, and these changes are probably it's good, right? It's a feels good type of change, but it won't shift anything at all. Like it won't shift any gears in the meta at all. It's just really like what they say. They're just compensating for the nerfs, which are really good design approach in general, and I like that idea from Riot. Zed, our base damage ratio decreased. Zed has been creeping up from the shadows in terms of both power and ban rate. We're tapping him back down in a way that will require him to make better use of his base kit to secure kills. The damage was reduced significantly from 100% AD to 65% AD. What? Excuse me? First of all, Zed's not even remotely that strong. The main reason why Zed's has been creeping up in terms of like ban rate is because it's so annoying to play against a Zed who has like an alt every team fight because Axiom Arc is sometimes bought in solo queue. But in general, his standard play pattern with or without new items as an assassin, right, is just frankly annoying. He's incredibly hard to deal with if you're someone who's skilled at Zed and you're able to play out your shadows and your ranges in order to avoid, you know, close fights and make sure that your mobility is being used to its full potential in order to outplay opponents and kill them using your death mark. This is such a big hit. I think Zed just died right then and there. Um, I would have much more appreciated like a maybe 80% AD, but 65 is such a huge hit. It's really insane. Oh man, I don't like this change at all. I think Zed needs a bit more love than this, and he doesn't deserve this at all. That's just my opinion. Lich Bane. At the start of season 2021, we revamped Lich Bane to broaden its user base by removing its ability haste, increasing Spellblade's damage and cooldown. These changes made it very powerful as a burst tool, but that burst also got a few nerfs throughout the year. As a result, Lich Bane was felt feeling pretty underwhelming for its core users who were partially restoring it to a healthier state. So the build path is changed. Now, instead of a blasting wand, you have a fiendish codex, which is much easier to build, by the way. And you have a 550 recipe cost instead of a 600, which is cool. They added ability haste. Almost every item has ability haste now. By 15, they nerfed the spell blade damage a bit. So it's gonna hurt a lot of the burst mages. So yeah, okay, but increase the AP ratio, and then the spell blade cooldowns down by 1 second. Huh. I think I actually like this change. Having less damage is pretty healthy for the game. Um, but I think it's a lot for the people who actually buy Lich Bane, like for example, like Echo, like Fizz. I think they like the ability haste more and the lower spell blade cooldown to synergize with their abilities much better than having the spell blade damage higher, right? It's like a one time big time 150% base 80 damage. But this time, um for nearly twice as fast, yeah, for nearly the same time frame as before, you get two Spellblade procs, which can be a bit stronger in the late game. In addition, you have ability haste, so I like this change. I'm like I'm a fan of it. It's an easier build path. I like the ability haste on the item. That's good. I think it's a good change. Rylai's Crystal Scepter. Has been struggling to find its place in the last couple of seasons because it's been trying to serve tanky battle mages, burn mages, and AP supports alike all at once. We're focusing on its purpose as a utility item by lowering its cost and increasing its health to make it more accessible to tankier mid-range mages and supports. Combined cost is down by 400, uh, meaning it's now 400 gold cheaper. The total cost equally reduced. Wow. That is 800, right? Okay. Ability powers gets reduced, and then health is also increased. So definitely, it's it's a good change. I feel. I think having cheaper options for mages, especially, I think this is more of a supportive change. To be honest, like champions who have already built mandate before, like Nami, which I don't think you would run this on Nami. Um, but other champions, maybe like Brand, might see some sort of like the resurgence of the Imperial Mandate into Rylai's as a buff. It's or as a build. So that could be a thing. I think this mainly is a buff for supports and junglers. Like if you haven't followed me on Twitter for a long time, I've popularized the Mandate Lilia, right? Mandate Lilia as well. Uh, given this change, you might even want to buy Mandate with Rylai's. It's a possibility. It's not that strong on Lilia, but you could technically have it if you want to have extra utility so that you can stick on to targets a bit more, you know, holistically as a team. I think having this extra option in terms of how you want to itemize is great for the game. And I don't think this is much of a I don't think this that big of a nerf to the mid lane mages that currently buy it. It's partially uninteresting anyway. I feel like you would rather want other AP items if you're like a mid lane mage anyway. So I think it overall just broadens the item range for support and junglers, and that's obviously a good change in my book. Turbo Chemtank. Turbo Chemtank's updates during the preseason 2022 was designed to let tanky gankers and initiators store movement into one big turbo blast for those moments when they gotta go fast. However, refuel was stacking too well with dashes, which meant it was being used as a DPS source for non-tanks. While we admire the creativity here, Turbo Chemtank is supposed to be for, well, tanks. We're adding some limits to the way its passive stacks. Ultimately, these adjustments shouldn't affect its intended use cases very much. These changes also apply to its okay, the Orn Masterwork item. So they updated the passive stacks, gain 5 stacks per instance of damage dealt against monsters and champions only. Um, and then gain 1 stack for every 15 units traveled, capped at up to 10 stacks per movement command. Oh, okay. I don't think this changes a whole lot. Um, now you can't gain any of the damage stacks with minions, but I think if anything, that's helping the item more, right? Because you generally don't want to. Eh, it's hard to say. Yeah, but in a more general use case, I don't think it changes anything. I think Chemtank's gonna be used for pretty much the same reasons. And at this point, Turbo Chemtank is not really that viable as our initiation tool. A lot of the Chemtank users will run Sunfire instead and will have Predator as the keystone if ever possible. And that's more of a reliable sort of like combo that they do because Sunfire is just currently the best tank mythic item in the game. Uh, but okay, Turbo Chemtank doesn't really change anything. All right, Chemtech Drake, the Chemtech Dragon Soul is still significantly overperforming compared to the other Dragon Soul buffs. We're nerfing the undead's health and longevity, expected lifetime, active duration. You get what we mean. Okay. The zombie health is now from reduced by 10% on the base health and 40 and 10% on the bonus health as well. Okay. Zombie duration without other health impacting factors. Oh, okay, so it's now reduced by 1 second. Think it's okay. I don't think this is necessary. But these aren't terrible changes that makes Chemtech Dragon Soul less important. I think it's still as important, and they're just trying to make some tweaks. Um, it's all right. It's all right. I didn't think it needed a nerf, but guess it's getting a nerf anyway. We're making a few changes to make the ahead team slightly less advantaged when fighting in the Chemtech Rift. Offensive action camouflage timer is now 2.5 seconds. So wait, let me read the excerpt here. Now's a good time to mention we stealth nerfed the Chemtech Rift last patch. At launch, champions instantly entered camouflage when they entered the fog. In 11.24, we made the camouflage timer check if you've made any offensive moves in the last 1.5 seconds upon entering the fog as well. The only change to the camouflage mechanics this patch is an increase to that timer. Oh, I see. I see. It becomes less annoying. All right. Down with that. Bonus damage versus enemies with more current health up to 12%. Huh. Okay, this is a bit more balanced change. I like this one. Yeah, this one's a much better change. A much more better design wise, because the offensive action camouflage timer, while I didn't know it particularly existed, I did notice it. Um okay, that's cool. It's gonna make games a bit less one-sided when you're ahead with the Chemtech Rift. And obviously overall it's a healthy change for the game. Hextech Drake, Hextech Dragon Soul is also overperforming compared to other soul effects, though not as to the same degree as Chemtech. I've noticed this in a lot of the games that I've watched. I feel like Hextech Dragon Soul damage is insane. Like it's so strong, almost like an Infernal Drake soul. But it's lashed onto your attacks instead of like base AD or AP numbers, which is arguably more visible. Chain Lightning true damage is reduced to 25 to 50 from 25 to 75. Um, Fair change. I think that's a fair change. Again, while I didn't think a change was necessary overall, I think it's not as bad as a change as some of their other changes this patch that I've talked about earlier in the video. And runes. Lethal Tempo's power is skewed a little too much toward. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Lethal Tempo. Lethal Tempo's power is skewed a little too much toward early game right now, making it especially cheese for melee champions. We're adjusting it to be weaker early and letting it scale in. So for melees, it's now what is this? 10 to 15? Or was it 13? I can't read. I can't read what that's written, but now it's 10 to 15%. And for range, it's 5 to 9%. Um, Also, sorry, sorry for that notification. Um, 5 to 9%. Okay, so this one, I mean, it's okay. I don't think this changes all that much. It's just a little bit of a tweak, but you're still gonna get lethal tempo on the same champion, same situations. It's just a little bit weaker early. It's fine. It's gonna get back to the same level anyway with a few levels. Everything else, AR Earth is back. VFX updates, bug fixes. That's pretty much it. As a recap to all the changes, if you guys have stayed for us for a while here, we're about less than an hour in the video. So let me just do this really briefly. Zeri, again, not sure how well she's gonna come out with. Not the most interesting kit. We'll see how it goes. Janna, very good changes into the support role. Uh, we'll see how it goes as well. Lulu won't change anything probably. Nocturne's good buff. Qiyana's unnecessary. Doesn't I probably won't see Qiyana still. Rengar is very good. Samira is in the right direction. Uh, Senna is also in the right direction. It's very good buff. Shen is also a bit unnecessary. Shen's still gonna be good. Tahm Kench is gonna be better now. Could see him support as well, especially with the current metagame. Talon's probably not gonna be picked jungle anymore. My guess. Tristana is a good change. Very welcome. Veigar again is now stronger bot lane. Go and try Veigar bot lane yourselves. Volibear is a bit better overall, but probably won't see him still. Yasuo and Yone, good changes, doesn't do anything. Zed change is incredibly unnecessary and probably nerfs Zed by a lot. We probably won't see Zed for quite some time. Lich Bane's a good change to a lot of the spellcasters that use Lich Bane already. Rylai is a good change for junglers and supports might want to pick up Rylai, especially with Mandate. Um, Turbo Chemtank doesn't change anything. Chemtech Drake, uh, Dragon Soul change, it's okay. It's a fair change, and Chemtech Rift change is pretty good. Dragon Soul, Hextech Dragon Soul change, it's whatever. Lethal Tempo change is also whatever. And yeah, in just less than an hour, we've run down the patch. Again, let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think I did this rundown a bit too slow? Would you guys want a shorter video instead? Or, is it better to have a much more in-depth analysis and discussion about each of the changes rather than what I did, wherein I glossed over some of the changes a bit? So let me know what you think. Leave a like and obviously subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Why not? And that's all for now. I'll see you guys in the next video. Get out of here.